Every August, garden centers across the country roll their tired, root-bound perennials onto the clearance rack. Half price, sunburned leaves, soil bone dry, roots circling the pot in tight little knots. Homeowners buy them anyway, because it feels like the last shot of the season before fall arrives. Most of those plants are dead by October, and by next spring the homeowner is back at the same garden center, buying the same kind of plant, wondering why nothing in their yard ever seems to stick. There's a smarter way to plant in August, and it doesn't involve rescuing sad clearance rack perennials, and it doesn't involve waiting until next spring either. Today I'm walking you through 9 perennials that actually want to go into the ground right now, in August, while the soil is still warm and the roots have 2 full months to settle in before the ground freezes. Plant these once, water them consistently through the first 6 weeks, and you're done. No babysitting through winter, no replacing them next spring, no repeating this same shopping trip every single year. Stick around, because number 1 is a plant I inherited from a neighbor's garden clearance nearly 15 years ago, and it has outlasted 3 lawnmowers, 1 divorce, and a full kitchen renovation without me touching it once. And near the end, I'll walk through the 3 specific mistakes that kill most August plantings. Because the plant choice only matters if the planting itself is done right. Before we get into the list, if you're new here, this channel is all about building a garden that runs itself, not one that runs you. I post real trial and error results from my own beds, not stock photography advice pulled from a catalog. Hit subscribe now so you don't lose this video when the algorithm buries it in a week, because I promise you'll want to come back to this list again in March, when you're standing in a garden center trying to remember the names. And if you've got a plant that's survived years of total neglect in your own yard, drop the name in the comments before you even finish watching this video. I want to see the pattern across regions, because what thrives untouched in Georgia is not always what thrives untouched in Minnesota, and the comments on this channel have taught me more about regional toughness than any book ever has. Okay, let's get into it. Number 9, Russian Sage, Borovskia atriplycifolia. Number 9, Russian Sage, the silvery, airy perennial with the tall spikes of lavender blue flowers that shows up in almost every low-water garden photo you've ever pinned and never actually planted. Here's why August is the right time for it. Russian sage hates wet feet. Spring planting means it's sitting in cool, damp soil for weeks before it can establish, which is exactly the condition that kills it before it ever gets going. Planted in August, the warm soil pushes root growth fast, and by the time fall rains arrive, the plant is already anchored deep enough to shrug them off. It wants full sun and soil on the leaner side. Don't amend it with rich compost. That's the one mistake that makes it flop open by midsummer. Give it a hot, dry, slightly neglected corner, and it rewards you with silvery foliage that smells faintly of sage when you brush past it, and a haze of blue-purple bloom from July through the first hard frost. Deer walk right past it. Rabbits don't touch it. I have never once fertilized mine, and I never intend to. A design tip worth knowing: pair Russian sage behind a lower mound of a warm-colored perennial like Coreopsis or Gaillardia. The silver foliage acts as a neutral backdrop that makes any warm color in front of it look more saturated, which is the kind of trick professional garden designers charge for, and homeowners get for free, just by knowing to do it. By the 3rd year, the clump is 3 feet wide and doing the job of a small shrub for the price of a perennial, and it will keep doing that job for the next 15 years without you touching the soil around it again. Number 8, Threadleaf Coreopsis, specifically the cultivar Zagreb. Not the taller, floppier Coreopsis varieties that need staking by July. Zagreb stays a tidy 12 to 18 inches and holds its shape without any support at all, which matters more than it sounds like it should. This is the plant for the gardener who wants non-stop yellow without any maintenance conversation attached to it. Fine. Ferny foliage covered in small golden yellow daisy flowers from June clear through September. Planted in August, it has just enough of the growing season left to put down a strong root system before winter, and it comes back thicker the following June, not thinner, which is not something you can say about most perennials planted this late in the season. I made the mistake early on of planting the taller moonbeam variety along a front walkway. Beautiful for about 3 weeks. Then it splayed open in a summer thunderstorm and looked like it had been sat on for the rest of the season. I switched to Zagreb the following August and never touched it again. 9 years later, same clump, same tidy mound, 0 staking, 0 regrets. One thing nobody tells you about Coreopsis: it's one of the few perennials that actually blooms better in slightly poor soil than in rich, amended garden beds. If your soil is heavy clay you've been fighting for years, that's not a strike against Coreopsis. That's exactly the situation where it performs its best. Full sun, average soil, drought-tolerant once established. This is a plant that thrives on being ignored, and if you're the kind of gardener who forgets to water for 2 weeks in August, this is the plant that forgives you for it. Quick pause. If you're finding this useful, tap that like button now. It genuinely tells YouTube to put this in front of more gardeners who are tired of replacing the same plants every spring, and it costs you nothing but a second. And I want to know, are you planting these in a full sun bed, or are we dealing with shade? Type sun or shade in the comments so I know what to cover more of in future videos, because the shade garden requests have been piling up, and I want to gauge how many of you are actually working with that condition before I build the next list around it. Number 7. Autumn Blooming Anemone, Honorine Jobert. Number 7. Japanese Anemone, the cultivar Honorine Jobert. Pure white single flowers on tall, wiry stems that bloom from late August straight through October, meaning this plant is starting its show right around the time you're planting it, which is a rare thing in the perennial world. This one's a bit of a secret weapon, because most gardeners don't think about fall-blooming perennials at all when they're planting a bed. Everything else on this list is winding down or already finished by September. Honorine Jobert is just getting started, which means your border stays alive and interesting long after the coneflowers and daylilies have gone quiet, and the whole yard starts to look tired. It prefers part shade to full sun, tolerates a range of soils, and spreads slowly by underground rhizomes to form a graceful colony over time. Not aggressively, just steadily, filling in gaps the way a good perennial should, rather than swallowing its neighbors the way an aggressive spreader would. Planted in August, in soil that stays reasonably moist, and it will reward you every single autumn from here on out, with almost no attention required. Fair warning, it takes a season or two to really hit its stride, so don't judge it by year 1. By year 3, you'll have a cloud of white flowers moving in the breeze, exactly when the rest of the garden has nothing left to offer, and that timing alone makes it worth the wait. Number 6. Sea Holly, Eryngium planum. Number 6. Sea Holly, the steel blue, thistle-like flower that looks like something out of a science fiction film, and that almost nobody plants on purpose, which is honestly a shame, because it might be the single toughest perennial on this entire list. Sea Holly wants poor, sandy, well-drained soil, the kind of ground most gardeners are embarrassed of and try to fix with truckloads of compost. Rich garden soil is actually the enemy here. It makes the plant leggy and short-lived. Give it the worst spot in your yard, the one where nothing else grows, full sun, minimal water, and it will thank you with metallic blue flower heads from July through September that dried flower arrangers pay real money for at farmers markets. It's a taproot plant, so pick the spot carefully the first time. It resents being moved once established, the same way a carrot resents being transplanted halfway through the season. Once it's in, deer avoid it entirely, rabbits avoid it, and it self-sows just enough to fill gaps without ever becoming a nuisance the way some self-seeders do. If you've got a hot, dry, forgotten strip along a driveway or fence line, the kind of spot you've given up on planting anything in, this is the plant for it, and it might be the only thing that's ever actually thrived there. Number 5. Hardy Hibiscus. Summer Storm. Number 5. Hardy Hibiscus. Specifically the Summer Storm variety, with the deep burgundy foliage and the dinner plate-sized rose-pink blooms. This is the plant that makes visitors stop mid-conversation and ask what it is, because most people have only ever seen tropical hibiscus that dies the moment frost touches it and assume this is the same thing. Hardy hibiscus is a different animal entirely, root hardy, well below freezing, dying back completely to the ground each winter and returning bigger every single spring, the way a perennial is supposed to behave. Planted in August, the roots establish through the remaining warm weeks, and even though the top growth won't do much this year, what you're really planting is next year's 4-foot-wide flowering shrub, not this year's disappointment. It wants full sun and consistently moist soil. This is the one plant on the list that actually appreciates a low spot in the yard where water tends to collect, the kind of spot that drowns most other perennials. Once established, expect blooms the size of dinner plates from July through September, and a plant that gets larger and more dramatic every year, without any division required. Ever. If you've made it this far, you clearly care about getting this right, so let's make it official. Subscribe now and turn on notifications, because I'm covering region-specific planting calendars next week, broken down by USDA zone, and you don't want to miss it. It genuinely helps the channel when you do this before finishing the video, not after. So take the 10 seconds now while it's on your mind. Now, 4 left, and the last one is a plant that's been growing in my front bed since before I owned the house. Number 4. Culver's Root, Veronicastrum virginicum. Number 4. Culver's Root, a native perennial that most garden centers still don't carry, which is exactly why it deserves more attention than it gets. Tall, architectural spikes of white or pale lavender flowers on stems that can reach 5 to 6 feet, arranged in neat whorled foliage that looks intentional even before it blooms. This is a native prairie plant, which means it's built for exactly the kind of August planting we're talking about. It evolved to establish in warm soil and tolerate long dry spells once its roots are down, because that's literally the climate it grew up in for thousands of years before anyone was gardening it on purpose. It wants full sun to light shade and doesn't demand rich soil. Bees and butterflies treat it like a buffet from July through September. The height makes it a natural back-of-border plant, and because the stems are sturdy, it rarely needs staking even at full size, unlike most tall perennials that flop the moment a summer storm rolls through. Plant it once, and it becomes a vertical anchor that ties an entire bed together for the next 20 years. Number 3. Threadleaf Blue Star. Amsonia hubrichti. Soft blue, star-shaped flowers in late spring. But the real reason this plant earns a spot on the list is what happens in October. The fine, needle-like foliage turns a brilliant golden yellow that rivals any tree in your yard and holds that color for weeks longer than most fall foliage does. Planted in August, this native perennial settles in fast and needs almost nothing from you afterward. No fertilizing, no dividing, no supplemental water beyond the first year. Deer leave it alone entirely. It forms a neat, rounded mound about 3 feet tall and wide, and it holds that shape without sprawling or flopping for decades, which is rare for a plant this fine-textured. It's slow to reach its full size, so don't expect drama in year 1. What you're doing is planting the plant your future self will thank you for every single autumn from here forward, long after you've forgotten you planted it. Number 2. Siberian Iris. Caesar's brother. Deep violet blue Caesar's brother variety. Unlike bearded iris, which need dividing every few years and are prone to rot, Siberian iris is nearly indestructible. Grassy, clumping foliage that stays attractive all season, topped with elegant purple-blue flowers in late spring. Planted in August in average to moist soil, full sun to part shade, and it will sit there quietly, building a denser clump every single year with no intervention. I have a stand of Caesar's brother that's been undisturbed for over a decade. No dividing, no disease, no pest issues, just a slightly larger, slightly more floriferous clump every June than the year before. The foliage itself is worth the space even after bloom. Narrow, upright, grass-like leaves that add texture to a border all summer long, which is more than you can say for most spring-blooming perennials that go ugly and floppy the moment the flowers finish and the foliage is left to fend for itself. Number 1. Peony, and if you've watched any of my other videos, you probably saw this coming. The peony. There's a peony in my front bed right now that was already established when I bought this house. The previous owner told me it had been there since the 1970s. I've done nothing to it in the 15 years I've owned this property except cut flowers from it every May and cut the foliage back every November. It has never been fed, never been divided, never been sprayed for anything, and it comes back fuller every single spring, without fail, regardless of what kind of winter came before it. If you're going to plant one thing this August and never think about it again for the rest of your life, make it a peony, the single detail that matters more than anything else on this list. Plant the eyes, the small pink buds at the base, no more than 2 inches below the soil surface. Bury them too deep and the plant will grow leaves for years and never flower, and you'll spend a decade wondering what you did wrong. Get that one detail right and you've planted something that will outlive the house you're planting it next to, and possibly the next 3 owners of that house. August planting gives the roots the entire fall to establish before the ground freezes, so next spring's growth starts strong instead of catching up from a late spring planting the way most gardeners do it by accident. 3 mistakes that kill August plantings. Before we wrap up, 3 quick mistakes that will undo everything on this list if you're not paying attention to them. Mistake 1. Watering too shallow. August heat tempts people into a quick 5-minute sprinkle every evening, which trains roots to stay near the surface where they'll bake the first time you skip a day. What these plants actually need is a deep, slow soak 2 to 3 times a week for the first 6 weeks, enough that the water reaches 6 to 8 inches down, not just wets the top inch of soil. Mistake 2. Skipping the mulch. A 2 to 3 inch layer of mulch around a newly planted perennial in August does more work than almost anything else on this list. It keeps the root zone cooler through the remaining hot weeks, holds moisture between waterings, and insulates the roots once the first frost arrives before the plant has fully established. Mistake 3. Planting too late in the month. Everything on this list wants roughly 6 to 8 weeks of warm soil before the first hard frost to establish properly. Push these plantings into late September in a cold winter region, and you're gambling with the plant's first winter. If you're watching this in the back half of August, plant this week, not next month. 9 perennials, planted once in August, and none of them asking you for anything more than consistent water and a little mulch for the first 6 weeks. Russian sage, Zagreb Coreopsis, Japanese anemone, sea holly, Hardy Hibiscus, Culver's root, Threadleaf blue star, Siberian iris, and the peony that outlives everyone who ever planted it. Comment below with which one you're planting this week, and tag a friend who's still buying the same dead perennial from the clearance rack every single spring. This video is the thing that actually stops that cycle for good. If this saved you a trip back to the garden center next April, subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see you in the next one, where I'm breaking down exactly which of these to combine for a border that blooms from May straight through frost, without a single gap in color the whole season.